Ask yourself this question. When do you want to have wealth in your life? When would it be most meaningful to you? Wouldn't it make more sense to build wealth in your earlier years so it can be of some use to you and your family? In this video, I will show you how investing in gold will keep you poor. Watch to the end to see how James made over $200,000 more than George by not investing in gold. This is Growth Guide, your guide to growing your wealth. You can categorize assets into two baskets, one for storing wealth and the other to create wealth. Let me be very honest with you. If you aren't already wealthy, then what are you storing? Gold is a storage of wealth. If you invest in $1,000 of gold, what would it do for you? All you can do is either keep it as a storage of wealth or wait an extended period of time to sell it to make capital gains. In June of the year 2000, a troy ounce of gold was worth Australian $482.60. Over 20 years later, in June of 2023, a troy ounce is worth $2,881.08. I know what you're thinking. Wow, that's almost 6 times more. And you're right, it is worth more. But in the year 2000, your $1,000 would buy you 2 troy ounces of gold. After 23 years, it's now worth just under $6,000. Your investment in gold took you 23 years to put $5,000 in your pocket. So you averaged a gain of $217.39 per year. Doesn't sound like wealth to me. Now you must be thinking, yeah, but I would buy more than $1,000. Cool, let's scale it by 100. You bought $100,000 worth of gold in the year 2000. That's about 2,000 troy ounces. After 23 years, it's now worth just under $600,000. That's a return of $500,000. That's not bad, but a $500,000 gain over 23 years is not wealth. Wealth means abundance for you and your family. Yes, $500,000 is a big sum of money, but it's not abundance. You will pay taxes on that $500,000 as well. If you're from Sydney, Australia, $600,000 will barely even buy you a 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs, let alone the city. Plus, that also means that your $100,000 was locked away for 23 years. So if you were 30 when you started, you are now 53, and you didn't even hit $1 million with this investment. Your money sitting in gold did nothing for you in the hardest times of your life. When you have a young family to provide for, your family struggled. For what? The problem is, gold just sits there, producing nothing. Nor is it wise to use leverage with debt to buy gold. You'll have to make the debt obligation payments out of your own pocket. There is no cash flow with gold. That's why it's just a storage of wealth. It doesn't create wealth. So what are assets that create wealth? First, let me explain the exponential wealth curve. There are 3 things to identify: the capital accumulation phase, the inflection point, and the wealth zone. If you aren't wealthy already, you are in the capital accumulation phase. The idea is to keep the capital accumulation phase as short as possible to reach the inflection point to get into the wealth zone. If you spend most of your life in the capital accumulation phase, when are you going to hit the wealth zone? That's why assets like gold are useless in this phase and keep you poor. Gold literally just sits there, whilst you spend your life trying to get ahead. Surely by now I've made the point that your problem to solve is not the storage of wealth, but the creation of it. You need assets that increase your cash flow to shorten that accumulation phase. Increasing cash flow should be your primary target. More cash flow means more capital you will have to invest, and you will be positioned better to use debt to invest. What are assets that increase cash flow? The short answer is businesses. Don't get scared away from businesses. Conducting business is a skill, and like any skill, you can learn it with deliberate practice. It's best to buy an established business. That way, you inherit the goodwill of the existing business and everything is set up for you. It's better to go with what is already proven and working than try to reinvent the wheel. The more simple and boring the business, the better. This means you can implement an exit strategy to appoint someone to take over your role in running the business. Don't ever fall into the trap of trying to run everything yourself. You don't want to buy yourself a job. You want to buy yourself a system that produces cash flow. James and George have been working together for 10 years now. 5 years ago, James and George had an investment fund of $50,000 that they saved from their incomes. Both of them knew that working for a salary alone would not produce wealth. They would need to invest. George decided to invest in gold. He saw that gold had increased in value over the years. He thought, why not put my $50,000 in gold and grow my wealth? George bought $50,000 worth of gold at the current price of $2,881.08 per troy ounce. So a total of 17.35 troy ounces. James, on the other hand, decided to use his investment fund to buy a business. James didn't want to use debt to fund the business. He worried that because he was new to business, not everything would go smoothly. So James looked for businesses on sale for $50,000. He found many opportunities, but all the businesses seemed to be an owner-operator model at this price point. James thought, well, I could start as an owner-operator. That way I could learn the business from the inside out, then hire someone. James knew that he could not quit his job, so it must be a business that can work outside of his work hours and also have strong enough earning potential to one day hire someone. James found a mobile cleaning business for sale. The business came with a van, equipment, and cleaning contracts. Since the contracts were commercial, the cleaning business would operate outside of the 9 to 5 business trading hours, Monday to Friday, 3 hours per day, which was 15 hours of commercial cleaning weekly. And James could do these contracts straight after work on the way home. He consulted his accountant and qualified that the business would have enough income to appoint a worker in his place in the future. The business would produce $1,000 a week cash flow as an owner-operator. After looking at the job market for cleaners, James found out that he could hire someone and still have a positive cash flow of $600 weekly. James dived in and bought the business. James worked for 6 months after his job in the business and learned the ropes. After 6 months, James hired a young university student to work in his place. James felt confident that this was a simple enough business to scale so he could make more money. He felt confident now that he could use debt to buy more contracts and appoint university students to work for him. Now James thought, I would still have to manage and oversee everything, but I could do that from home now. James brought a new contract every year using debt, so each new business would cost him $60,000 with the interest of the loan over 3 years. He knew that he could pay the debt within 3 years using the cash flow without overstretching himself. So, with a worker, his cash flow would be $600 weekly, then $385 would service the loan for 3 years, leaving him with $215 weekly in cash flow. He bought a new contract every year until he reached a total of 5 contracts. So over 5 years, James's breakdown looked like this. First year, James uses his $50,000 to buy his first contract. He runs as an owner-operator for 6 months and saves $26,000 from cash flow. After 6 months, he appoints a worker, and the cash flow is now $600 per week. In the second half of the year, James's capital grew another $15,600, so a total of $41,600 from the first year. Then every year, this business would produce $31,200 with hired workers. Second year, James buys his second business with debt. This business produces $215 a week after paying workers and the debt obligations, therefore creating another $11,180 in capital yearly. James repeats this process for the next 3 businesses. By the time James bought his 5th business, business number 2 debt was paid off. Therefore, by the end of year 5, business number 1 produced $166,400. Business 2 produced $64,740. Business 3 produced $33,540. Business 4 produced $22,360. And Business 5 made $11,180. That's a grand total of $298,200 growth in capital. And currently, James's cash flow is $1,845 weekly. And once Business 5 is paid off, his cash flow will grow to $3,000 weekly. After the end of 5 years, George checked on the price of gold. The price grew an average of 8% yearly, and now a troy ounce is worth $4,233.25. George was thrilled to see the prices and calculated that his 17.35 troy ounces were now worth $73,446.89. So who grew more in wealth? James, who grew his capital from $50,000 to $298,200 and another $1,845 in weekly cash flow, or George, who grew his capital from $50,000 to $73,446.89. That's why investing in gold will keep you poor. Gold just sits there. It does not create more opportunity for cash flow and barely makes a big change in your capital accumulation. Investing in gold will keep you in that accumulation phase of the exponential wealth curve longer, and your life will just float on by. To summarize, assets can be categorized into two buckets, one for storing wealth and the other for creating wealth. You need to pick assets that create wealth to shorten your time in the wealth accumulation phase so you can hit that inflection point into the wealth zone. If you find these resources of value, then hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below. Remember, gold is a storage of wealth. It doesn't create wealth. Hit the subscribe button and view the next video and get more simple guides to grow your wealth.